these bars tend to be quite good for tricep work. Also, if you're doing arm work, which we'll get later on, you can see again that's promoting me to turn in that way, so it's going to make me go through the elbow joint quite hard to actually get the shoulder involved. Okay, skull crusher, French press, these are both done on the bench lying down. So just look at the same setup issues as we did with the bench press. Just look at the height of the bench and where the knee is in relation to the hip. So you want to make sure those are at least in line, or it doesn't matter if the knee is slightly higher than the hip, but what we don't want is the knees lower than the hip because we've only got 15 degrees of hip extension. So if you go past a couple of inches lower, you'll find that the pelvis starts rotating forward and we're extending and straining the back. Okay, so if that's the case, if we've got short legs, just get out a plank here, block, and we can just sit your feet up on that. The idea is just to grab, so you've got that 45 in the hand there, and that way that will just turn the elbows in. So the keys to this, just make sure the setup's alright, back's neutral. Put a block for a sleeve if they're too low, but he looks pretty much on the mark. Grab the bar just on the 45, so the elbow, and then you want to just rotate the elbows in that way. And then there's two ways we can do this. So this is skull crusher, and then we do the French press. Skull crusher, we're just going to, as the name implies, just coming down to the skull. All right, and all we want is movement through the elbow joint. So you just want to be coming down through the elbow and then straight back up. What you don't want is too much shoulder involvement. If you're doing that, then you're going to get the lats and everything else straight is coming in. If you're trying to isolate the triceps, we just want movement through the elbow joint. So cues for this, just want to tell the person to rotate the elbows in. Okay, just thinking of keeping the bar directly above the head, and then bending at the elbow, taking the bar to the top of the head, and extending straight back up. And you might find some people you might have to just jump in and just keep the elbows in. Right, if they're going to cheat, usually it's where the elbows will come out and they'll try and get the shoulders involved. Right, so that's the skull crusher. People tend to be stronger on that position than the French press. The advantage of the French press, the range of motion is slightly bigger because you're taking the bar just slightly back, so it's not actually lined up with the shoulder. And then that way, rather than going to the top of the head, you can now actually come back to the back of the head. So you can see there, training can actually get a bigger range of movement. So you probably hit more of the fibers of the tricep. The key thing though here is the leverage position is not as good. So your loading would have to drop a bit. Any questions on that one? Okay, but essentially all the same principles. You just want to make sure hands are just slightly behind the head. Okay, and from there just locking into the shoulder, and then the elbows down to the back of the head. All the same issues in terms of technique, just make sure the elbows are rotated in. So you're going to go through the elbow joint. Okay, and when you're moving, just make sure it's only the elbow joint doing it, there's no shoulder. Any questions on that? You could play around with this one, these two exercises with eccentric and concentric phases. If you wanted to do that, which contraction do we tend to be stronger in?
Eccentric.
Eccentric, yeah, okay, good. So what you could do is come back, so we go into that French press, where leverage-wise you're actually weaker, okay? And then we can come down into the French press, right? And then you can move forward, and then concentrically come back up. Okay, so if you want, you can play around with these exercises. And you might find you can probably use more weight doing that than if you just purely did the French press by itself. So that's one way you can just combine exercises if you want. eccentrically go down on French press, okay, because you tend to be stronger eccentrically, so you're putting yourself in a poorer leverage position. And then when you're going to go concentric in the weaker position, then you put yourself in a stronger mechanical position. Any questions on those? Good.
Oh, what about the grips?
Grips.
Just changing the grip line of the
The key with this is you tend to want a narrow grip because you just want the elbows involved. Okay? If you start going too wide, then the shoulder's going to get just for the French press, you just want to touch the back of the head. Yep. Skull crusher, you're just going to the forehead. But French press, slightly bigger range of movement because you're not just going to the top of the head here, you're actually coming back and around.
Pretty much want to be working through sagittal plane as well. So if you go like close grip, or you start widening your grip, you're probably going to start working through maybe transverse and bring in a bit more chest. As well, so you turn it probably more into a press rather than a strict tricep movement.
If you go over the page, we do these with dumbbells as well. Use dumbbells, basically the same principle. I just use a neutral grip, i.e. rotated in that way, because again, if you go that way, elbows are a lot more locked in, then you're more likely just to go straight up and down. If you've got a pronated grip, i.e. hands over, then there's more chance that the shoulder's going to start getting involved with it. So just rotate. Again, if the person's finding that a bit awkward, you can come over, just keep the elbows in, and just keep coming down. Right, so there'll be the skull crusher, just basically on the top of the head. If you wanted to do the French press, we'll just come back slightly, and then just go back to the back of the head. Advantage dumbbells here, you don't have the issue with the bar being in the middle, so it's not going to actually touch the head, so you can go a little bit further with the dumbbells. Questions on that one? Alright, if you've got the notes, I'll do the last one there since we're lying on a bench with the dumbbells. There's that dumbbell extension press. You want to see that one? Page 70. Yep, you want to see that one? Okay, good. This one's actually quite specific for bench pressing, but it's quite effective for the triceps. If you go with Lou Simmons, who's a powerlifting coach, he thinks the key to bench press is actually triceps rather than pecs. But he tends to do a lot more benching with suits, etc. Right, but he leaves the extension parts that you really need. This one, set dumbbells together and you roll them down and in. Yep, so I'm going to come around that way and then you rotate them back out. Right, so the idea of this one, it actually sort of mimics the bench to some extent, but you're just promoting a lot more elbow joint involvement. So the idea is you just bring the dumbbells in together, okay, and then you just basically take the elbows out to the side, rotate the dumbbells together to come down to the chest, and then rotate out and up. I have found that's quite an effective one. Right, so key thing is just make sure the dumbbells stay in line. So just come straight down. So you can just take the elbow straight out. Yeah, that's better. Right, so key things with that, in terms of cueing, just make sure they keep the dumbbells together, and you just want the elbows coming straight out to the side. That way. Right, so it's just all basically purely through the elbow joint again. Flexion on the way down, extension on the way back up. Okay, setup thing, issues just the same, just make sure the knee's not too far or too much lower than the hip joint, etc. For those things. Okay, any questions on that? exercises with the barbell, bar that last one, i.e. the French press skull crusher. The only issue with that is it's just harder to rotate the elbows in because the hand here is going to be talking you the other way around. Right? The advantage of that easy bar, two things: one, it orientates the elbows better, and two, it's because you've got a narrow grip, you've got a nice short bar, so the weight's easy to balance. Right? Particularly if you're going to do that heavy, if you've got quite a long bar, it's harder to stabilise and balance it.